This video is going to show you how to evaluate functions. So in order to evaluate functions, we're going to substitute the variable with its given value and then we'll solve it. So in this example, it says evaluate y equals 2x plus 1 when x equals 3. So I'm just going to write down the equation again, y equals 2x plus 1. And then instead of putting x here, we're going to replace it with this 3 they tell us it's equal to. So I'm just replacing x with 3. And then we're just going to do the math. So we're going to do order of operations. 2 times 3 will give us 6, plus that 1. So we get a final answer of y equals 7. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do example 1, and then you'll do example 2 during the same time, just to make sure all the steps are lining up. So for example 1, I'm going to evaluate y equals negative 5x plus 3 when x equals 2. So I'm going to rewrite the equation again, and then I'm going to substitute x for 2, since that's what they tell us it's equal to. So I'm just replacing x with 2. So let's look at your example. So I'll just rewrite the equation, but we're going to replace x with 3. So when you do that, what do you get for the next equation? So we should get negative 2 times 3 plus 4. Okay, so I'm going to head back to my example, and now we're just going to do the math. So I'm going to order of operations, negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, plus that 3. So I get y is equal to negative 7. Okay, so go ahead and finish solving yours and find what y should be equal to. So after doing the math, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And then we have negative 6 plus 4 will give us negative 2. Okay, let's try a couple more examples that are a little bit more difficult. So again, I will do example 1 and you'll do example 2. Okay, so I'm going to start by rewriting my equation. So y is equal to 2x squared minus 5. And x is going to be negative 1. So I'm just going to replace the x variable with negative 1. Okay, so let's look at your example. I'm going to rewrite the equation, and yours says that x is equal to 2. So what is your equation going to look like once we replace x with 2? So you should have gotten an equation that looks like this, with parentheses 2 squared and everything else remaining the same. Okay, I'm going to go back to my example and I'm going to do the math. Orders of operations tells me that I'm going to do the exponent first. So negative 1 squared is the same as negative 1 times negative 1, which is positive 1. And then we have minus 5. So now we have 2 times 1, which is 2, minus 5. So I get a final answer of y equals negative 3. Okay, now that we've substituted your value in for x, you can continue to solve and find y. So doing the steps, we have to do the exponents first. So we do 2 times 2, which will give us 4 now in parentheses. So now we're going to multiply. 3 times 4 is 12, minus that 5, so we get an answer of y equals 7. Okay, so we can also evaluate functions a different way other than using algebra. We can also evaluate by using a graph. Okay, so they'll give us a graph, they'll give us the line of the equation, and then they're going to give us a number to evaluate for. So it says evaluate for negative 4. Okay, so we're going to find negative 4 on the x-axis. So negative 4, we're going to go up, put our little dot there. Oh, sorry. Let me do that again. Okay, there's our dot. Now we want to find the y value that corresponds with that. So we're going to move that dot over to the y-axis, and it tells us it's going to be at 3. So that is how we find our answer if we're evaluating with a graph. So our final answer would just be 3. Now let's do the next example and evaluate for f of 5. So I'm going to find where x is 5, and we're going to drag it down to the line of our function, put a dot there, and we're looking for y. So where is the corresponding y to this point? So we just draw a line over to that y-axis and get negative 6. So negative 6 will be our answer. Okay, this is a different graph. I'm going to do the first one, and then you'll do the second one, and we'll see if they're lining up. Okay, so evaluate f of 4. This function looks a little different. So let's find where x is 4. Sorry. Okay, there we go. So the x is 4. We're going to drag it up to where it touches our graph, and then we need where the y value is. So we'll draw our line to the y-axis, and we get a y value of 4. Okay, so let's look at f of 7. So you're going to look for where the x-axis is at 7. So where do you think this is going to correspond to your y-axis? Okay, so let's put... Sorry, okay, that's the old one. This is yours. Okay, so we find 7 on the x-axis, and it goes down to that point on our graph. Now we wanted to reach the y-axis, so we're going to drag it over, and it lands on negative 5. So your answer would have been negative 5. Okay, in summary, to evaluate a function algebraically, substitute the variable with the given value and then solve. To evaluate a function given a graph, find the point on the graph that aligns with the given x value, and then find the corresponding y value.